You're now listening to the Anxiety Society podcast, brought to you by Jordan Devlin and Scott Hope. This show is to help raise awareness for all struggles in relation to mental health. Enjoy the show.
Season 2, gents. Episode 2. First guest is Mr. Kane McCloy. I worked with Kane on my apprenticeship back in 2016. He's now moved on to bigger and better things over in Bangkok. So we're just going to have a wee chat about Big Keno's life and obviously how Bangkok is, all that carry on, and then we'll just take it from there. So, Kane, tell us where you came from and sort of where you are now, a little timeline.
That was a great introduction, Jordan. So I grew up in Cambuslang. It was just in the outskirts of Glasgow. I had quite an easy upbringing, quite privileged. I went to a Gaelic school actually for my first. I went to a Gaelic primary in East Kilbride, which is just beside Cambuslang, and then I went to a Gaelic school in town for high school. And like you said, I joined the apprenticeship the same as you when I was 17. Spent 3 years in the apprenticeship. Went full-time in Network Rail on the railway as a signalling engineer. And now I've moved to Bangkok in Thailand. I was explaining to Jordan just before we started recording. I started off as a designer for the electrical equipment over in Bangkok. I've since had a little promotion. It's called Technical Solutions. It's kind of like project engineering, if anyone knows or cares what that is. But yeah, had a good upbringing. No complaints, to be honest.
Happy days.
Happy days.
So, obviously you went to a Gaelic school and all that carry on. How was that?
See, to be fair, so I got sent there because of the small numbers. So there was only 15 people in my primary in my year. And then it doubled when I was in high school. I think it went to 30. So compared to some schools, I don't know about you, Scott or Jordan, was there hundreds in your year? Because most schools have a good few hundred, don't they, each year?
I don't know how much exactly, but I think we were about 100, roughly. Aye.
Yeah,
so it must have been like some difference.
Yeah, it was a lot more like one-on-one education, my mum said. But I've not turned out that well since I'm on the railway. So if I was maybe a doctor or something like that, but yeah, hats off to you, Mum. You made the right decision. But it was all right. It was a good education, stuff like that, and I'm doing not too bad, so I can't complain.
So seeing like the Gaelic school, did you just speak Gaelic the whole time, like get taught in Gaelic and all that carry on?
Like you spoke English in school, we had to speak Gaelic. All our subjects, everything was in Gaelic.
That is wild.
It's a language school. So if someone went to an international school, a Chinese international school, you need to speak Chinese. It's exact same. I know, it's mad, but no, I liked it. Like everyone was very tight knit. Everyone knew everyone. It felt like a wee community because there was only 30 people in my year. I think there was 180 in the school. Everyone knew everyone. Sometimes it was good. Sometimes everyone knowing your business wasn't as good, but yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. No, I can't complain.
And have you still like maintained that, or like the language, or has it slipped a bit?
I'd love to say yes, Scott. I could have a conversation. And sometimes I do. I was doing my apprenticeship in my last job with Network Rail. One of the boys that went to school with me is my best pal now, Thomas Kennedy. He speaks fluent Gaelic. He went to my school, so we used to speak about people in Gaelic, like behind their back. So I kept it going with him a wee bit, and my brother and sister speak it as well. But if you're not using it all the time, it's hard. to be fair, since I've been here, I've picked up Thai quite easily because I think that part of your brain's already stimulated because you've already learned the language. So I found it quite easy to pick up the basics of Thai. But no, I'd say maybe I'm 60% fluent in Gaelic now, maybe. I think I could, if I started speaking it again, I think I could pick it up quite quickly, though.
Aye. It's just, as you say, though, if you're not using it regularly.
And no one speaks it, like, you'd struggle to find people that speak it. I've got a funny story when I was working up in Inverness in a farm. I never spoke to anyone in Gaelic outside of my school or my family. And then this farmer, we were working the railway in this really, I think it was called Balnacra, it's past Inverness. And this farmer was shouting at us because we parked on his land with our van. And he started shouting at us in Gaelic. And I shouted back at him. And he was so taken back that I spoke Gaelic because obviously he didn't think I would. But that's the only time I think I've used it outside of school, which is a shame, to be honest. But yeah.
And did he say, like, I'll just leave your van then? Did you get away with it because you spoke
he started
Gaelic?
chatting away because he was fine, to be fair. Yeah. But I think only, I don't know, maybe 1% of Scotland speaks it, maybe less than that. I don't know.
Which is a shame, but as you say, like, nobody speaks it, so it's hard to build that up if you don't go to that sort of school.
I know, definitely.
I heard that your favourite channel on the telly was BBC Alba, Kane.
BBC Alba. I can translate all the Partick Thistle games for you. That's that.
So I just going back to your sort of school days, how did you sort of get on at school? Because I know what you were like on the apprenticeship. You kind of fitted right in with us all, and you're always kind of one of the main men in the group, having a laugh and all that carry on. So what was it like in your sort of school days, primary, high school, then moving out and straight into the apprenticeship kind of thing?
Well, since this is a podcast about mental health, I'll try and relate it to that. I think, like I said, my upbringing was good, but probably my kind of struggles started when I was in school. You're talking about me being like you see me now and you know me, Jordan, I'm a confident guy. But in school, I was nothing like that until maybe my later years. I was quite shy. I was heavy. You've seen some of the pictures of me when I was younger. I was probably, I'd say my heaviest, I was maybe 12 and I was about 16, 17 stone easy. I wish we had a picture. If I could get a picture up now, I'd show you. But I was really heavy in school. And that's maybe where my struggles started, maybe because I was already quite shy and a kind of introvert. But it is what it is in school. I'll hold my hands up when through high school you always kind of bick at people maybe for their way or if they're a wee bit different and stuff like that. So I used to get it bad maybe in primary school. We probably started off and to be fair, when I probably got maybe halfway through high school, kind of cooled down a wee bit. But it actually spurred me on. I'm going to take the positives from it. It spurred me on because people were saying about my weight, I just took it as go and do something about it. And I joined like a football team, started running, exercising. And then if you see me now, a lot of my life revolves around exercise and eating well and stuff like that. So I'm going to take the good from it. But maybe the not so good is I still suffer. Maybe started when I was maybe 10 or something, maybe 10 or 11, where I used to make myself sick and stuff like that. I used to eat and make myself sick. I think they call it bulimic, just because I was so worried about my weight. And that maybe spurred me being a bit more anxious and not wanting to do things as much or being a bit shyer maybe because of my weight. And still I suffered. Like that was a good few years I used to really be controlling about my weight, but even now I've definitely got some sort of eating disorder, where I'm very careful about what I eat, and you know it, Jordan. Like, I spoke to you about it before. It's just silly things, like everyone always says like fucking carbs are bad and stuff like that. But I'm quite anal about it and what I eat, and maybe because I'm just so anxious about getting back to where I was, and I'm really uncomfortable. I know how I feel when I'm heavy, so that definitely affects me mentally and physically. So yeah, my school, my upbringing, stuff like that was fine. Everyone gets a bit of a harsh banter, we'll call it, when I was growing up and stuff like that. But overall, it was okay. Apart from my weight, I think I was quite a happy young guy. And as you said, I was confident once I started being a bit more sure about myself. When I left school, joined apprenticeship, I was around similar boys that just didn't care, just up for a laugh. I think I started to kind of thrive with the company that we had down in Coventry and in Portsmouth and stuff like that. That was some of my favourite memories after school and stuff. So, no, I'd say that's a bit of my struggles growing up, but all round, it's not the worst.
So see, like, how you obviously struggled with like a sort of term eating disorder as you were growing up. Did you manage to sort of deal with that yourself, or did you reach out to anybody to be like, obviously you said you're sort of bulimic at some point?
So it's funny. I remember I was really young, and it sounds quite stupid. I remember getting a photo taken, and I saw the photo, and I was like, I don't look like that. I was so heavy in it, and obviously I did look like that. And I know everyone can get a bad photo, but this was I was just not looking my best. And I remember for a few weeks I just kept on making myself sick every meal. And my mum started to notice me doing it. I think she maybe heard me doing it. And she said to me, she was like, that's not healthy. You end up with other different problems if you keep doing that. You need to do it in a healthy way if you want to lose weight. And she was the one pushing me into football, exercise, losing it in a healthier way than making yourself sick, obviously. So yeah, I remember going through that, but no, I didn't have any professional help at all. Not even with my mental health at all. Like, that spurred maybe me being anxious and stuff like that, but I always dealt with it maybe more speaking to my friends or speaking to my family. I've had a couple of therapy sessions in the last maybe 2 years, when I was struggling a lot with work and stuff, and with my body image and the eating disorder and stuff that I still kind of have. But I never found it very. I know a lot of people go and find it really rewarding, but it just wasn't for me. I remember going to one last year. I know actually it was this year. I think the start of this year, and I came out it feeling worse than I went in, and I was like, maybe I was just getting the wrong people, because people find therapy really helpful and stuff like that. But for me, maybe it's just not it, or I've not spoke to the right person. And I deal with it in different ways. Like I said, I speak to my friends, I speak to my family. I'm lucky enough to have a good support network for the things that I struggle with, whereas some people don't have that support network. So maybe they need some sort of therapy, or to have someone that's maybe unbiased that can speak to you about your problems that maybe you don't want to speak to with someone else. So, people find it useful, but for me, just speaking to people around me has been the way that I've dealt with most of my problems.
That's comforting to hear from my perspective anyway. Like, because we spoke about it last week. I'm a yoga teacher as well. So although it wasn't therapy, there was certain aspects of like doing the yoga teaching training that was similar to like therapy. And I was the exact same. I was like, I am not finding this helpful at all. Like, it's way too painful to like go back. And I didn't find it like at all helpful. I was like, I'd rather just not do that. like I was the exact same. That
I don't know if it's the fact, Scott, of maybe it's opening an old wound, or you're just not as comfortable speaking to people about it. But for me, my problems are quite close to my heart. So although I'm an open person, I'd much rather speak to the people that care about me about it, not with outsiders. But that's just me, and maybe that's how you deal with it as well.
Just on that, like I said, and I think it was like the very first podcast about when I started to go to like therapy and all that, I hated it for the exact same reason. It was a case of bringing up all these issues that you maybe feel like you've moved on from by the time you actually get to see the therapist, and then you have to dig them all back up again. And I think the way that they do the therapy, obviously there's that many different types of doing it these days, but it's a case of getting those thoughts out your head and sort of to paper or speaking about it in a way that should take the pressure off the head, because it's not just lingering in there. Instead of being stuck in your head, it's actually getting out and you're speaking to somebody else about it. But like you, is like I'd much rather speak to people that I've got a relation with or close to about certain issues. But on the flip side of that, I've been to another therapist in the last sort of 12 months, and it was much better. I was much more happy to speak to her about certain stuff. So I do think it purely depends on what person you get. And it's a bit like having a personal trainer in a way. Like, just because you get a personal trainer doesn't mean to say that means that they're the one for you. Like, there's that many different options out there. And like, even talking about how you didn't get any professional help sort of nutritionally from being bulimic. Like, obviously your mum's obviously quite switched on in terms of, she was like, no, diet, exercise, how can we look at sort of making you better in-house as opposed to sending you out? Because I know you probably know yourselves, if you were to go to a doctor or whatever and you had to go and speak to like a therapist or nutritionist, you'd be waiting for ages, and then that's just more time that you can keep going down the downward spiral.
Totally. And I think that's the really hard thing about the NHS and stuff like that just now, is people are waiting months and months, and you hear about stories about people can't wait that long and end up making silly mistakes or push themselves into a corner where they just can't deal with their problems anymore. So the wait time for therapy and help just now is a bit of a joke, and I understand it. It's obviously difficult to help everyone because it's such an epidemic, mental health just now. And I think what we are talking about just now is speaking to the people around you, and some people don't have people around them. That's the sad thing, isn't it? I've got a good family network. I've got a good network of friends. I'm lucky to have the people that I'm comfortable speaking to, whereas some people don't have that. So to have a professional speak to you about it, and it might not just be you need someone to speak to. It might be one of my cousins recently, his full life, he felt like he was just a bit different. And this is just an example, but he felt like he was a bit different and he wanted a label on it. As stupid as it sounds, he wanted a professional to tell him, this is the reason that you're thinking like that or acting like that. And it was ADHD in this case. And he just wanted to know that all his thoughts and the way that he presented himself wasn't, he knew it wasn't normal, but he just wanted a professional to say, that's why you're doing it. This is how we can help it. And I think some people with mental health, they might not have any underlying health conditions or underlying mental health conditions like anxiety, depression, but they just need a professional to tell them, not everyone thinks like that. You're going to have hard times in life, you're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. It's not that you have a mental health condition. Some people will, some people won't, but I think it's someone just telling them, a professional, right, this is what's happening. But you're right, Jordan, speaking to the right person, I think is the most important bit.
See, even on that, like, it's the same with physical health as well. Like, I'm a proper like hypochondriac. Like, if there's anything wrong with me, I'm like, I need a professional to tell me I'm either going to be all right or there's something wrong, and this is how we go about fixing it.
You start Googling.
The Google.
Jesus. Honestly, every time it's, you've got cancer, man, for fuck's sake.
It's That's mental. But like even going back to like that photo that you said that you've got that spurred you on, I feel like I've got the exact same kind of photo, and it's just like I look at it and I think you're a disgusting mess. And
Totally.
it spurs you on though. It gives you that motivation to be like, I am never going to kick about like that again. And if I do, knock me out.
It's such a
Totally.
tough way to look at yourself, though. It's like it's such a rough like thing to go through.
It's very unhealthy to think like that, and I think that the more that I'm fucking 25 now, but the more I kind of go through things, and no one cares what you look like. I know there'll be people that there'll always be bullies out there in the workplace, outside of work and stuff like that put people down, and they're just obviously insecure about themselves. I think if they're putting other people down, but no one cares about how you look, and that's what I see now. Although I do it for myself. See, like going to the gym, running, eating healthy. I do it for myself to feel good, not for anyone else now. Whereas I used to just be like, right, I need to look good so the people don't. When I was younger, it was so people don't bully me or so people don't comment about my weight. But now I've got a lot of healthier relationship with it, where I'm just saying, no, I'm doing it for me because it makes me feel good, and that's it. I don't know if you're the same, Jordan or Scott.
I think it's a really tough issue because like it feels like when you're in the middle of like feeling like that about yourself, that it doesn't matter who says good things about you. Like it seems to have zero impact. Like if you say to someone, I need to lose weight, pretty much everybody goes, you don't, like, you're fine. Like, but in yourself, you're like, I know I need to, or like, and it is really tough to like to listen to other people when it comes to your own body image, because I think that voice in your head is so loud saying that this is wrong, or I should look like this, or I should do this. And for somebody to tell you otherwise, like it kind of goes in one ear and out the other with body image. I think more so than other issues.
It doesn't help these days as well, especially with like Instagram and all that, because you're kicking about looking at photos, everybody in the best line, all that carry on. You're like always comparing yourself to somebody that's they're going to look better than you. There's always going to be somebody out there that looks better than you. It's a fact. But like even to hear like you like, if anybody's got Kane on social media, you know that if you're in the gym, you're always posing in the mirror and stuff, which is great to see because it just shows you like the difference in how far you've moved. Obviously, you used to have like proper be self-conscious about your body image and that, and now you're more than happy to go into the gym, even take your top off, take photos and that, and post it for everybody there to see. So it's kind of like it's reviving to see in a way that you've went from that to this.
Yeah, and again, although I post stuff like that, and you're totally right, there's so much on social media, and everyone talks about it, about the unhealthy relationships that guys have with. You look at the fitness influencers and how good a shape they're in and stuff like that, and then you start to judge yourself. You're like, oh, I should look like that, I should be this. But everyone is an individual. Again, it doesn't matter. Like, I think if you're a decent person, that's all that matters, doesn't it? But going back on myself, I take pictures maybe in the gym and stuff like that because I know that I've worked hard and that I'm eating good and all the progress is for me to see and me to be like, right, I'm doing well. It's not for any other reason than that. But no, it's a good feeling, Jordan, when you're making progress and seeing your hard work pay off. So that's why I do it for sure.
Decent. So just going back a wee bit, what you said something about there, like obviously you spoke to professional therapists and it was obviously partially about the eating side of things previously, but then you also mentioned troubles and stuff at work. So I just wanted to see if you wanted to expand a bit on that and sort of what your experience has been.
Yeah,
Don't name any names.
Yeah, I'll go back a wee bit further first. When I talk about mental health, and I've got a lot of people around me that that suffer with different things. And I don't know what you think, but this is something that I've thought about quite a lot recently. As of course, no one's born with a mental health condition, but what I think is that everyone that has some sort of mental health condition came from a traumatic experience, whether that be me getting maybe bullied at school, whether it be, you could think of any example. I've got friends that one of their family members committed suicide when he was younger, and that's why now I think he struggles with things. And what I'm going to go on to now is probably what I think the root cause of a lot of my kind of issues are with my mental health. So I'd probably say, yeah, my mental health I started to notice it when, I was probably 10, 11, 12. And I remember my mum and dad getting divorced, and they split up and everything happened. It seemed fine at the start. And this is when I was struggling with my eating and stuff like that. So it was a bit of a hard time anyway. But I remember when they broke up, and my dad, you've heard about my dad before, Jordan, but he's a bit of a ladies' man, and I remember him and my mum split up. It sounds bad, but every week I'd go to his flat, and it'd be getting introduced to a different woman, and it was hard for me, and it was hard for my sister, because we were only 2 years apart. So yeah, I would have maybe been 12, she would have maybe been 14 maybe, or maybe younger than that. And it started off with that, and that kind of gave me, it was like very unhealthy relationships I saw from quite a young age. And when I look at my relationships now, I struggle with trust for a start, like, because of how my dad was to my mum, just like straight after they broke up and stuff like that, and how he treated women. I struggle a lot with the trust side of things in relationships, and it started off with that. And then my dad is not the best with money, and that now spurs me to be very anxious about money and what I spend my money on. I'm a saver in a lot of ways, and because of how he was, and how much my mum actually struggled when we were younger, that has spurred me to be very anxious about money. And although I've got a good job and stuff like that, I'm very much, I need to put money away to make sure I'm okay. There's that part of my head that's like very anxious about the money side of things. So yeah, I think my dad growing up had a huge effect on my mental health, with relationships, with my kind of anxiety, with whether it be money, would it be trust, things like that. I really struggled with growing up, and even now. I'd say that's probably stuff that I deal with most on a daily. Like, sometimes I have sleepless nights, but I'm a bit of I count my pennies, even though that I don't need to, because I'm anxious about that. But yeah, I'd probably say that has spurred quite a lot of anxiety now, from even back then, being 12, 13, and seeing that at that age. And then growing up, it was just like that for probably. My dad just got married recently, but he was very much a ladies' man, and I had a lot of trust issues because of that. I remember him, when we used to go and see him at the weekend, sometimes he'd cancel because he was seeing a girl and stuff like that. And that really effed my trust over a wee bit, because you want to be kind of your parents should be the constant in your life, shouldn't they? And the ones you can rely on and stuff like that. And to have that kind of broken down a wee bit was hard for me. But yeah, my dad in a lot of ways is amazing. Like, he's a provider, he's a good laugh, he's one of the boys. You've not met my dad, Jordan, I don't think, but he's a good guy, and everyone's got good, bad about them. And there's just little bits that still affect me from how he was. But yeah, growing up, going on to my kind of work situation that you asked about. During our apprenticeship, Jordan, I think we had probably some of my best memories growing up was from my apprenticeship. I don't know about you, Jordan.
I'd agree with that. Like,
I'd
I'd go back in a heartbeat. Like,
100%, mate, 100%. But yeah, I'd really enjoyed my 3 years of my apprenticeship. Really enjoyed my first couple of years of being a full time in the railway, and then there was one guy in particular. Well, actually, it started off with my supervisor at the time, and it was just a bully, to be honest. And you felt like you were always treading eggshells a wee bit, and that made me really anxious. And I had an apprentice at the time who was getting really picked on, and that was affecting me, and I had to speak up about it, and it was just a right mess, and I was just really unhappy about work, and I was having sleepless nights or sleepless mornings or afternoons because I was night shift about work because I was so unhappy there. And it got to the point where Jordan will know I couldn't do it anymore in work. It actually wasn't because of my supervisor. It was a different guy who was he hated seeing younger guys doing well and progressing. He didn't like people standing up for themselves. Again, just a bully, and you're going to get that in every walk of life. But he was just not a nice person, and our job in the railway is safety critical. It's got a lot of responsibility, especially I was doing testing in tracks so passenger trains could run. Like, it's a safety critical job, and I remember him trying to get me effed over a few times, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't work like that. I felt like I was so on edge all the time, and I ended up just packing it in. I went away on holiday to Thailand in Bali for Christmas, New Year, my family, and I came back and I was like, I'm never going back to that workplace again. And actually before that, I was driving down to a site, I think it was Gretna, somewhere on the border somewhere, and I turned the van around because I was that miserable about going, because I was working with this guy that I just turned around and said, nah. I just phoned in sick and just didn't go. So I think my mind was made up because I was that unhappy in my job. And that's where kind of maybe a lot of my trust issues started to come back up, and my anxiety started to come back up because I was so on edge in work. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating properly. I just did not have a balance in my life. And then, yeah, when I came back with my family, I just said, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm 24 and I'm unhappy in this workplace. I need to do something about it. So I ended up just going and applying for all different jobs. I got offered jobs in Australia, Canada, Thailand, and obviously I've took this one here in Bangkok, and I've been here for 5 months, and I've never been as happy in my life, to be honest. I'm culturally Thailand, and I love Scotland. I love my family, I love my friends back there, but culturally here, people live a very simple life. Me and Jordan were speaking about earlier, there's a huge poverty divide here. There's maybe the top 1% who have everything, and there's other side who have nothing. But see, the people that have nothing, and even the people that have everything, you see here that all people care about is family and putting food on the table. There will be some people, but there's not people that are materialistic and care about the stupid things in the daily that people do a lot in the UK, I think. It's humbled me a lot being here. I've never been a very materialistic person, but being here, there's a lot more of a laid back culture. Everyone's just happy to kind of be alive and be kicking about. It's very fulfilling to work here and to live here, to be honest. I think this stage of my life, I wanted a new challenge. I wanted to progress, and I felt like I was so unhappy in the job that I was in. And now that I'm learning, I'm developing here, I'm having all these experiences. I was in Cambodia last week. I was in South Thailand the month before. I'm experiencing different cultures, people from all over the world. It's such an eye-opening experience, even though I've only been here 5 months. It's been a huge change in my life, and yeah, I'm loving it. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on my bits to do with my dad, my upbringing, and my work has been most of my kind of issues, my mental health recently, for sure.
But we'll go back to the first point that you started to speak about then, which was your old man.
Yeah,
So obviously, I can't speak for experience because I've never obviously dealt with that kind of stuff. But like, see, looking back at it now, have you ever actually like sat down with your dad and spoke about the sort of things that you maybe think day to day now because of what happened back then?
It's so funny you said that, Jordan, because before I came to Thailand, it's not that I was trying to tie up loose ends or anything like that, but I wanted to come away here and not have any, not regrets in a way, but I just didn't want to leave anything untouched. And I knew it was an issue in my life, my relationship with my dad, and how it affected me. So exactly what you've just said there, I flew over to Belfast, which is where he lives, and I had a full weekend where we went to like the giant causeway and we walked for hours and we spoke about literally everything, whether it be the unhealthy relationships that he showed me growing up with, being a bit of a womanizer and not treating women the best way, and probably my strong relationship with my mum, and me being very protective over her maybe stems from that as well, because I'm totally a mummy's boy, 25, but I'm mummy's boy for sure. Like, I'm very close to my mum, and that might be a reason for it as well. So yeah, we spoke about everything, about the trust issues, about the money things, about absolutely everything, and I came away from it. And if anyone, any of you or anyone even listening, ever thinks about an issue in the past that might have affected them, if there's that wee bit in their head of like, oh, I think that might be the reason that I feel like this or that, try and speak to the person, either the person about it or someone else about it, because he's speaking things through. It's the best thing you can do for anyone, I think. I came away from that situation with, it felt like just a weight lifted off my shoulders. My relationship with my dad's the best it's ever been now, because I feel like I'd got the reasonings, I'd got everything that I wanted to say out in the open. And there was a few tears, but no, I'm very at peace with it now, I'd say that. And it's a very good way to be with it.
So obviously you got a sense of relief after speaking to your dad and stuff. So do you keep in contact now a lot more, or is it less? Obviously, because you're in Bangkok and stuff. And do you kind of put that to bed, or do you think it'll ever come back up, or do you think you've settled that part of your life?
No, I totally think if you start looking back at your past, I think you just always need to look forward, and you can forgive. You might not forget, but in this case for me, I've moved past it, and like I said, my relationship's probably the best it's ever been with my dad. We're building it back up, that trust. We're building back up the relationship, and yeah, I feel happy with the direction it's going. No complaints on my side. I'm very comfortable with where we were at just now, for sure.
Good stuff. It's good to hear, like, because it must have took a lot of bottle to be like, I'm going to start bringing all this up, because you wouldn't know how he would react to it. Obviously, it's your dad and stuff, but you'd always have that lingering fear, like, what if he doesn't take good to me bringing all this back up, and is he going to cope if I start bringing it up and talking about how much it's affected me, or obviously from my son's perspective, because I can imagine if I was a father and my son came to me and told me about all these things that happened years ago that's led to them maybe feeling anxious in a modern day, I'd feel terrible. But the fact that he's obviously been willing to go walking about Belfast with you, speaking about it for a couple of days, getting basically everything on the table, and the fact that he's obviously managed to just sort of come to some sort of conclusion one or another, just put things to bed, it's good to hear. It gives anybody listening that sort of motivation to be like, if you've had an issue with somebody in the past that you maybe don't want to bring up but it's still bothering you, just reach out to them. And if they don't want to listen to you, then fair enough, then that's still sort of some closure. At least it's not always lingering that, should I speak to this person about this or anything like that. It's quite good to hear that you've actually went back, obviously spoke about stuff with the actual root cause of some of the problems, as opposed to speaking to a therapist about it. So that's a prime example of, you need to speak to the right people to get the right answer, if that makes sense.
Sometimes you just need to go to the root cause, I think, but some people will be comfortable doing that, or some people might not have the people in their life anymore that they can do that with. But yeah, just speaking about it openly, and it was such a relief for me getting that out in the open. And do you know what? It only came to a head when I was off work unhappy. And I remember I started journaling and stuff like that. I don't know if any of you do that, but I'd write down all my problems at night when I was feeling really anxious. And I found that really useful to try and clear my head a little bit. I know in some like therapies and stuff like that, they say write down your issues, try and get out the open, speak it through. I just used to journal, and I felt like having it down on paper kind of solidified it for me a little bit and took a bit of pressure off for me. So I remember when I was 24, and I just felt like, right, I'm not at a good point in my life just now. I'm not happy with my work. I'm not happy where I'm at. I just sat down one night and wrote down what my issues were and what I felt like I was going through. And the three main things were body image, so my kind of eating disorder in a way. It was my work, and it was my anxiety that stemmed from, I think, obviously my body image, but again, my dad. And I was like, right, how am I going to work through these issues? And I just started to try and tick them off. I was a bit possessed in a way. And anyone that knows me, if I want something, I'll just go and get it, especially with like me coming to work over here. There was nothing that was going to stop me from going working abroad. As soon as I made the decision, I don't want to work in Network Rail anymore, I don't want to be in the UK, I was always going to go away, and I was always going to make it happen. It was just when and where. So yeah, I started to tick it off. I started to interview. I started to reach out to as many people as I could on LinkedIn, stuff like that, and ended up with countless interviews, countless opportunities. And see, every time that I would journal at night and I was making progress, it was so fulfilling for me, for sure, because my work was probably the first thing that I got the job in Thailand in maybe February. And then I was like, right, that's that out of the way, on to the next thing. And then it was, right, Kane, get your health sorted, start to have a healthy relationship with food, your body. See, when I started feeling better with that, I was like, right, the next thing, I started to work out my anxiety. I went to a couple of therapy sessions. Although it didn't work out, that was me progressing. Went and spoke to my dad, started to speak a lot more openly about it with my family and friends. And now I'm probably at the best stage I've ever felt with my mental health. So it shows you that for me that worked, and hopefully it does for other people as well. I'm sure people have similar experiences of how they deal with their problems. But yeah, that's it for me.
God, you're like, you look like you seem like, obviously being a yoga teacher and that, the kind of guy to put pen to paper and write about stuff. I don't know if you are or not.
Actually, I wish I was more like that, Kane, than like what you've done is be able to like obviously sort of get out how you're feeling into like clear objectives and like, well, this is how I'm feeling, this is why I feel it, and this is how I'm going to solve it. I think I do that more in my own head, which is probably the wrong way to go about it. And I probably do need to like journal and stuff a little bit more, but I think I always just get lazy with it. Because I feel so busy all the time. I don't really take that time to actually sit just and get stuff out.
I don't want to interrupt you here, but I was the exact same. I was like, I've not got enough time, and it felt like people were speaking about it around me when I spoke to my friends, and they were like, just write it down, just speak to people about it. And I was a bit. I thought journaling, I don't need to do that. I can work it out. I'll go over it in my head, my problems. See, putting something on paper and just reading it over or making a list, it sounds so silly, but for me, it might not work for everyone. So it might not work for you, Scott, but I'd try it because I found it so useful and I didn't think I would. So if you're the type that maybe you've got some issues going on just now, writing it down. And I was really struggling to sleep at this point. I think I went a month and I was maybe sleeping an hour a night. I had sleep insomnia all the time because of my anxiety. It was that heightened. And I started taking loads of night nurse and sleeping tablets. Nothing would work, right? And I started journaling, and the first night that I journaled, I slept 8 hours, and I was like that, just writing something down. And it was such a relief to sleep. I was like, I'm going to continue doing this. And lo and behold, I kept on doing it. And it's one of the most useful things for me now. And it might not be for everyone, but for me, it's good.
Aye, I definitely, I think it's something I've always sort of, I have dabbled in, but never actually been strict with myself with it. Like actually take the time to do it. So listening to that, I think I definitely will. And not that I have like any of the issues that you described right now, but I think it can't hurt to do it. So definitely worth a try.
Every single person in the world has issues. I don't believe there's one person out there that doesn't have an issue. And I think if you can help yourself and do something about it, whether it be speaking to someone, whether it be writing it down, whatever you can do to make it even 1% better, I'd do it. I speak to people about their mental health in all different ways that people have dealt with it. Like, some people find therapy really useful. Some people like me don't as much. I've spoke to people that will go to group counselling and just speak to all different people from different walks of life about it. There's so many help. There's so much help out there now. And although I think it's still such a huge problem, if you want the help, you can get the help. The unfortunate thing just now is it might take a bit of time if it's professional help with NHS or whatever, or wherever anyone is in the world. But that's the only unfortunate thing. But there is help out there for people that need it.
Aye, and definitely, and at least whilst you're sort of waiting for that help, maybe like starting practices like journaling might alleviate some of the issues until you can get that help.
People might think it was daft because I did, but there's little things that you can do, whether, and I think, I don't know about yous, but personally, if you're not doing the things that make you tick, like for me, it's eating good, exercising. I'm always looking forward. Like if I'm not progressing in like work or just my life, I feel very unfulfilled. So you need to make these things happen. No one's going to solve these things for you. So do the little things that make you feel good, and you always feel like you're going forward. That's what I'd say.
Definitely. It's really weird that like that impact that work's had on you, and like and how much it can impact your life. Like that it's something that you just get paid to do. Like it's just, and again, you can say to yourself it's just a job. Like don't worry about it, and like, but it has such a massive impact on your life, and that's who that you spend the majority of your time with. It's people that you're just thrown together with, and as you said, you get these arseholes that are bullies or they're like bitter about their own lives that sort of bring that on to you, and it's like it does make you miserable. Like it's really bad having that sort of relationship with your job.
See if there's anyone genuinely, and I would say anyone that speaks to me about being unhappy at work. Of course, everyone's not going to love their job and enjoy it, but there's a difference between being unhappy or bored at your work or not being fulfilled. Or some people go to work just to pay the bills, and that's fine. See if you're genuinely miserable at work, you need to get out. You need to look for something better, because there's always better out there. For me, coming to this new challenge, a new company, a new start, it's been so I've never felt so good in the workplace, and how much fulfillment I get out of doing a good job, and my work environment's just so much better, and the effect that has on your personal life, like you said, Scott, is tremendous. And I'll tell you a sad story about when I was working with Network Rail. I was that miserable. I don't know if I've told you, Jordan, but I think I've only told a couple of people. But I was driving to a site one night, and I was that unhappy at my work. I said I would rather. It was in my head, and then I actually said it out loud. And there was a boy sitting next to me. I was like, "Pull over." I said to myself, I'd rather put this van off the road than go to work tonight. And I was actually in my head, and if I didn't have someone in the van, I genuinely think I would have just put it off the road, because I was that unhappy. It got to that stage in my life where, and I hope no one gets to this stage where I didn't want to be there that much, that I'd harm myself not to go. That's how bad it was. And I'm laughing about it just now, but it was such a dark time in my life where I was so unhappy. Again, the sleepless nights I used to have over it were crazy. So anyone out there has, I hope no one has that, but if there's anyone that's miserable with their work, get out of it, because it's such a big part of your life that you don't need to deal with that, for sure.
I think the sad thing is that will be pretty common. Like, and I think like for me anyway, the toughest part about feeling like that at work, because I have felt very similar at work on a couple of different occasions, where I'd like drive into the car park and I would just like have my head in the steering wheel and have to like give myself 15 minutes to like will myself into the building. Like I would just have to sit there and be like, right, just another day, just get it over and done with, go home and do the stuff you actually enjoy. But like when you're miserable there, that's tough to deal with. But I think what I always struggled with was like how happy I was when I was told that I'd got the job. And that happened to me in like maybe 3 different occasions where I would be absolutely miserable at work, and then I would get another job and I'd be like, this is it. Like I've finally got a good job, and like I'm going to enjoy this one. This is going to be the one for me. I'm going to stick it out. Like this is my career now. And then 18 months down the line, I'm sitting in my car again with the head in the steering wheel, being like, what? And then I actually started to think like, what is it? Is it something wrong with me that like I just can't enjoy work? Or is it something that with the places that I'm actually working? And it turns out it was the places that I was working that I just had a bad run at companies where I would just get treated like shit. And I think especially when you first start work, you get treated like a child because you're just out of school. And as you say, you get people who have been there a while, and you do get treated like a child sometimes. And I think that was rough to deal with as well. But I think when you eventually do find somewhere where you get treated well, you're doing something that is fulfilling and that you actually enjoy with people who you enjoy working with, the difference in your life is unbelievable.
It's crazy, night and day.
It is.
See just on that, Scott, what you've just described, it's like a perfect comparison to like a relationship with somebody. It sounds like, because obviously when you're applying for jobs, you're getting interviews, it's like the chase part of a relationship. So you've not actually sealed that person. You're not in an official relationship. And then the time comes and you're like, right, we're official. It slowly just starts to go downhill.
I like that. I like that analogy. Very good, Jordan.
Because that's like the whole thing you were saying there, like, oh, you were miserable, and then you had the prospect of a new job, so you got excited. It's like you get the prospect of maybe somebody else, and then you get all excited, and then you end up with that other person. You think this is going to be great. I've nailed it. I've cracked it, and then 10, 12 months down the line, you're like fucking head back on the steering wheel. This is miserable.
You just slowly lose faith that it's the right place. Like it's the right place to work. Like even when I first started at these companies, I would be telling myself that I was enjoying it, like knowing fine well that I wasn't, because I was like, I can't go back to sitting with my head on a steering wheel again for 15 minutes, like willing myself into a building. So I would probably notice in the first couple of months, so like, this is a bit shit. But like no, it can't be. It can't be, like, it's just me, obviously. And I just need to stick with it. And when this happens, it'll get better and whatever. And then like 18 months later, you're like, no, this is shit. Like I'm miserable again.
It feels like you've been one step forward, two steps back,
It
and you're in the
does.
same position again.
Aye. And when I'd be like, when I come to the realization that, oh, this is shit, like, I was like, how has this happened again? Like, you were so happy 18 months ago to get this job, and now you're straight back to square one. And it's not that, like, sometimes you might have to go for a completely different career because, like, well, that's what I did anyway, because I did like 2 jobs that were very similar to each other. I was like, it must be this industry that's the problem and not the companies that I'm working for. And now I work for, and now I've went back to that sort of industry, but actually a good company, and I fucking love it. So
like you've just said there, I was miserable in the railway, and I thought, nah, it's just not the industry for me. And I started to apply for jobs. I gave myself options. I was like, I'll apply for jobs in the railway, but I'll apply for jobs outside just in case. And I decided, my mum said to me, she was like, just give it one more chance, give the railway one more chance. And if really you are miserable, then maybe it's just not the job for you. And I'm so glad that I have gave it another chance. And obviously I'm loving it now, but I was the same as you. I was like, is it me? Am I doing something? And it's not. It's the place that was in it. There was the people that were there. It was a bad working environment, and just there was a few people. There was a lot of nice people that I worked with, but there was some that just not nice people. So
yeah.
But you're going to get that everywhere.
There's that many external pressures, like being in that situation. Like obviously the work being terrible is shit, but it's the get out. Like, how do you get out? Because people have got like mortgage payments, car payments. Just people need money, and like yourself, Kane, the money that we're on at the railways is decent. So to look at other opportunities, you're like, I couldn't make this amount of money elsewhere, but my lifestyle needs me to make this amount of money. So I was
sorry, on you go.
I was just going to say, no, there was times when I was like out in the track working on the tools and that, and I would love to just apply for a job in Tesco. But Tesco would be like less than 50% of my wages, so I'm like, I can't do that.
Jordan, I was the same. I was miserable been on the tools, to be honest. After maybe 4 or 5 years at it, I was like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. But I started applying for jobs where, again, we were on decent money in the railway, but I said to myself, I was like, if I'm not happy, money comes and goes, it doesn't matter. The money isn't making me happy. You know what I mean? I'd much rather go and do a job that maybe less responsibility, I'm happier. As long as I'm going home at night and I'm not constantly thinking about work, I was miserable. So I would have done anything. I would have went and scooped horse shit out of anything. Honestly, I would have, the same as you, I would have went and worked in Tesco just to get away from it. That's what I've done.
It's weird though, because like when I was doing it, it was nothing to do with the people I was working with. Like I couldn't have a greater like group of people to work with, but the night shift and stuff and the lack of work that we actually done, it was just not motivating. Like you'd say you work a 12-hour shift, but out of that 12 hours you're maybe working 3, so 9 hours you're literally like, I need to be at work, but I'm not actually doing anything, so what's the fucking point?
Yeah, and you know what, the sad reality of the industry that we work in, and I won't mention any places that we've worked, but yeah, they don't, you don't get that job satisfaction, and some people might love it, the fact that you only work a few hours your shift. I hated the fact that I was not getting fulfilled in my work, I wasn't getting challenged, I wasn't learning, I wasn't developing, and at our age, we should all be learning, we should all be challenging ourselves, and you know what I mean? I just felt so stuck. That's what I felt, Jordan.
How did I'm going to keep going back because we've spoke about that many different things. But obviously that time you were in the van and you said the comment about wanting to run it off the road as opposed to actually going to the shift that night. What was the person that you were with reaction? How did they sort of deal with the situation?
He was absolutely miserable at his work as well, and that's what told me that it's this place, it's not me. And he just said to me, like, you're fine, let's stop at the next service station and get a drink, have a chat. And you know what? Just talking to him about it made me feel 10 times better. And he was like, there's a lot of people, although I was really struggling, it was like, there's a lot of people out there that are in much worse situations. Just let's get this shift out the way and you'll be fine. But he did say to me, no, we both actually need to start looking for new opportunities, we'll call it. So yeah, that's what made me kind of realise, you were saying, Scott, about, was it you? I knew it wasn't me because everyone else around me was miserable. And the sad reality is that I know boys that are still there that are miserable. And it's sad. And I've said to them seeing how happy I am now, I really hope that they start to change and do something different, because it's the place that they're in just now is just not healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
It's sad.
How did the opportunity in Thailand come about?
So again, I was quite possessed when I was applying for jobs. I was like, I'm going to get something, and I was going to make it happen. So I went on to, so my sister lives in Cambodia. She's an English teacher in Cambodia in an international school. And when she first left a couple of years ago, I'd always fancied working abroad. Her doing it made me realise how achievable it was. And I just thought, why not? I always wanted to go travelling and see the world. And I was like, I can do that while I'm getting paid. And I knew boys that went and work abroad and stuff like that. And a lot of people are doing it just now, going to Australia, going to the Middle East and stuff like that. Like, a lot of people are doing it. So I just thought, why not me? And I just applied for as many jobs as I could. The best way that I done it was LinkedIn. Just now is the way you get jobs. You go, you speak to people, just brass neck it a little bit and just say, I just messaged people and I was like, I'm a young aspiring engineer looking for an opportunity. If you can give me any help or direction, sent my CV, and I will not sing their praises enough because they would give me advice, they'd give me people to speak to. And my manager right now, honestly, I messaged him on a Thursday and he was like, yeah, no bother, I'll interview you on Monday. And he gave me the job. And I was like that. The fact that I'm now working over the other side of the world in a company that works in 70 different countries, and the projects that I'm working on just now are in Saudi Arabia, the Philippines, like all over the world. The fact that that spurred from one message and then an interview is so fast. See, when you speak to someone, and I've told my manager this since I've been here, when you speak to someone, and it was only over Teams like we're doing just now, there was just a click, and I was like, I know I could work for you, and I know we'd get on really well. And I had a really good manager back in Network Rail, and I could see a similar, although I was unhappy at Network Rail, my manager was actually a really good guy. Unfortunately, passed away earlier this year, but I just knew this was the place that I wanted to be. And I'd been to Thailand, and a funny story is that the last time I came, I was walking around Bangkok, and I don't know if you've been to, I know Jordan has it, I don't know if you've been, Scott, but there's a sky train that goes right around the city in Bangkok. It's called the BTS. And I said to my sister and my brother, I could work here, and now I do. So no, I applied for as many jobs as I could. I sat down on my bed one night with all my different job offers in Australia, and one in Malaysia, one in Canada, a couple here, and just said, right, where can I see myself working? And I thought, Australia, Canada, I could integrate there really easily. It's English speaking, although there'd be challenges. I was like, I think Southeast Asia would be a big challenge for me. That's what I want. I want a challenge. I want to come here and get the culture shock. I love the culture here and the people here. It's been hard. I'll admit it's been hard at times, and I've never felt so settled now. It's 5 months down the line, but the first few months, just adapting to the different way of life is really hard. But yeah, it's funny to see how one message on a platform can end up you work in a totally different country, and it's changed my life for sure, personally and professionally. So I know, can't argue with it.
Aye, I've actually been to Thailand a couple of times, and as you said, like the people there are ridiculously nice. It's almost a joke how nice everyone is. Do you struggle, especially in Bangkok, like just being a white guy getting mistaken for a tourist all the time? How does like the pushy sales tactics get to you? Because I think that would be like, because I did say to my wife, like I could live here as well, but I don't know if I could put up with always being. I'd want to wear a flag, but like, or like a jumper saying I live here. Fucking leave me alone. Aye, I'm an expat. Leave me alone. I'm not a tourist.
Nah, you don't. So the only places that you'll get that is if you go to the touristy places. Like I live in the financial and IT district of Bangkok, and it's internationals all around here. There's a lot of Chinese, Korean, French, all internationals. There's not that hustle and bustle of like the centre of Bangkok that everyone's trying to sell you things, like the tuk-tuks beeping at you. No, it's not like that at all. It genuinely just feels like it's just a life. Like, although it's a lot different from back home, it's so interesting to me still. No, it's an amazing way of life. Like, it's a lot more relaxed in the UK. Like you said, the people are. You walk into like a local restaurant, and they want to know like why you're here, where you're from. Like, they're so interested. And no, I've not had any negative experiences since I've been here. Genuinely, hand on heart, is has been amazing so far. And there'll be challenges, 100%, like there is in every walk of life. But it was definitely the right decision for me. And if anyone ever wanted to move to Southeast Asia, whatever career they done, I could not recommend it enough, to be honest. Bangkok's the most accessible place in the world for traveling. Like, I went to Cambodia for the weekend, last weekend, to see my sister. Go to Vietnam. You're in Central Asia. You go anywhere you want here. It's crazy. In an hour and a half, I can be on the beach with all the tourists if I wanted to. But no, going back on it, where I live is not touristy at all. It's just where a lot of international companies are. It's very like a professional place and a lot of nice accommodation and stuff like that. It's not the Bangkok that you've probably seen.
No, I'm glad, because that was one aspect I was like, oh, this would be wild. Are you driving over there?
So I have before. The driving is
Brave.
ridiculous. And I've drove in Southeast Asia before on the scooters and stuff, but Bangkok's a different level. So busy. People just have. Do you know what they say in Bangkok? You only need to take care of the people in front of you. You should not be looking behind you. So if you're driving in front of me, you take care of in front of you, and I'll take care in front of me. That's how it works here. But honestly, especially the delivery, the Grab drivers, which is like the Uber over here, or the fleet, in and out. It's hard to start with. When you start driving here, you get a sore fucking neck from looking all over. And if I wouldn't recommend anyone to drive here as a tourist, to be honest, but if you start to get a bit of experience outside the city first, or the quieter areas, work yourself into it, because it's hard going, for sure.
But it's weird that you think, like, because I was there for, like, I've been in total in Thailand for maybe like 6 weeks maybe. And you would think with like how erratic the driving is that you would see accidents and stuff all the time. Never seen one. Not once did anybody ever even bump or anything like that. Just completely in sync. It's like organised chaos.
You need to think, though, they're used to this kind of driving. They're used to the chaos and the madness, and of course there will be crashes, but they're so used to driving like this, and it's been like this in Bangkok since I think probably since motorbikes and stuff were getting about. So it's a mad city. It's got 10 million people in it, and it's very densely populated. It's the only thing that I'll complain about Bangkok is the pollution. Oh my god, I miss the fresh air of Scotland. That's what I miss.
I know.
Being at like Loch Lomond or something. I miss that. But apart from that, it's an amazing place to live, for sure.
How have you found the
Jordan? Make sure you let me know. We'll get a night out.
How have you found the Scran?
Because I'm quite health conscious, they cook a lot here with oils, sugars. You can ask for like the spice as well. You can need noi, means little spicy. I always say little spicy. Or like no sugar, no oil. You can ask for quite a lot of that, and you're usually fine with that. Because I eat quite strictly, I'll say it, because I the gym and stuff like that. You could get any type of food in the world here. It's so accessible. If I go on my phone just now, Grab, Food Panda, Line, like there's so many different applications that I could order like a meal prep just now. I could order a pizza. You can get anything you want. Thai food, Vietnamese. You can eat very healthy here, honestly, for very cheap. Like the meal preps I get are like £1, £2, delivered to your door. No oil, no sugar. But then I go out and I have a balance. I go out and I'll enjoy myself at the weekend, and have nice Thai food. Like, the food's amazing over here, the flavour and everything like that. But yeah, I enjoy the food, to be honest. Some people maybe not so much, but your stomach gets used to a bit more spice and stuff like that. So nah, you don't need to worry about that.
I would, because both times I've been very unlucky with the whole food poisoning situation. So, and the first time was fucking dreadful. So like I really, like, I was the same as you. Loved the food when I was there, and like couldn't get enough of it, and would eat Thai food like 3 times a day without eating it. And like I absolutely loved the food, and we loved it that much. We were like at the airport. We're like, we'll try and get one more meal in. So we were like, we'll try and find a Thai place in the airport. And I knew when I was eating it was ropey. Like I was like, this. So this isn't the same Thai food I've been eating. So I actually never ate all of it. I was like, nah, I'm gonna leave that. And then the plane took off to come back home, in like half an hour, and I was like, I'm not feeling great here. I was like, I know what will settle my stomach. The woman came up and I was like, can I get a Heineken? I was like, that'll be fine. That'll settle my stomach. A fucking beer. And then I was like, right, try and shut your eyes. I was like, no, fuck, I'm going to be sick here. So I leaned forward, tried to get the sick bag, and the top of it was like lined with chewing gum. So I tried to open it and it wouldn't open. Spewed all down myself. The start of the 14-hour flight home, I had to get a wheelchair in Abu Dhabi because I couldn't walk off the plane. Like, I was so rough. I had to go on a drip in Abu Dhabi and wait for our connection. And then the doctor in Abu Dhabi was like, right, you're just going to have to pretend that you're fine to get on this plane or they're not going to let you fly. So I was like, right, fine, I can act for half an hour. So I went to get on the flight to Edinburgh. And the guy was like, are you okay to fly? I'm like, yep, fine. I feel much better. The second I sat down on the plane, spewing again. Like, it was the worst 14 hours of my life. I spent more time in the toilet than I did on my actual plane seat.
You could. That is the worst place you could ever imagine to get food poisoning is on a plane. If you're in your bed, curled up or beside a toilet, fine. But to be on an aeroplane,
mate, it was the worst. It was honestly so bad. And the worst thing is I was wearing shorts and I hadn't brought any trousers with me, so I couldn't sleep because I was like, if I get the runs here, there's no fucking hiding it. Like, you're gonna see it coming down my leg. So like, I was so nervous to sleep in case I shat myself.
Since I've been here, I've only had food poisoning twice. But last month I was in the PP Islands, which is south of Thailand, and I had it bad. And had a couple of accidents, we'll say that. Yeah, food poisoning is going to happen to everyone. You just need to be either in your hotel or beside a toilet for a while, 12 hours at least.
I went back, and that was a few years ago. Went back this summer.
Summer? Did you?
I was in Phuket, and then flew up to Bangkok, and then went to Malaysia as well, like over 3 weeks. And the first couple of days, bang, got it again. I was like, you fuckers. I was like, this country is trying to kill me.
It's just so lucky.
I was like, mate, I am trying to love this place. Please let me. But see the smells and stuff after it. Like, it's so hard to escape. Like,
I know.
So I never ate Thai food the rest of the time. I just stuck to like. I basically ate McDonald's for the rest of the 3 weeks.
It's hard, but it's genuinely just your luck here. Most places will be absolutely fine, and like you said, you'll taste it and you'll be like, oh, that doesn't taste quite right. Spit it back out. That's what I say. I know, it's not good. When are you coming over to Thailand, Jordan?
That's what I was going to say there. Like, you're obviously talking about the driving and stuff. Like, loads of folk would go like bungee jumping or skydiving or something for a thrill. I might just come to Bangkok and rent a car.
That would be enough, honestly. It's madness.
It's crazy.
It's one place on the bucket list. I do want to come over at some point. I'll just need to stay in your digs though.
I was about to say, you know, you've got a place to stay if you ever come over, both of you.
I'll come over at some point, just when life allows.
Leave your partner in the airport, please.
Right, I'm just trying to think if we've forgot anything off that list of stuff that you spoke about earlier on in terms of being in Thailand and your work. In fact, there's a couple of things actually. So we'll start off with, obviously, when you were at your work and that back on home soil, you were hating it. Like, did you have any outlets there, like to speak to? Like, obviously, you say that you had a good relationship with your manager at the time, who sadly passed away. But how did you go about fixing the problem? Because if you're miserable and everybody else is miserable, I mean, it's only a matter of time before they lose all their members of staff. So how did you go about escalating it and trying to make it better?
So currently, there's an investigation going on about the individual, so I can't really say anymore. But yeah, he the person that made me miserable and has made a lot of people miserable there. You don't want to see anyone lose their job, but he is the problem for that place for sure. And the sad thing is, there's still boys that are there that I know are still miserable at their work and still just going about. So I raised it. I put myself forward and said, "Nah, this isn't right." And I took out a HR case. So yeah, we're going through the proceedings just now. So I just hope in the future it will be a better place to work for everyone. And me putting myself forward to not take the hit, but to raise it. I hope that it will make a difference for sure. So yeah, that's how I wasn't going to leave and let everyone else deal with the mess behind me. That was the biggest thing for me.
And then the last sort of thing I was going to touch on, just before we wrap it up, was obviously you're now in Bangkok. I FaceTimed you about a couple of months ago or something, and as much as you were loving it, you were settling. So basically, what struggles you had to deal with so far, moving away from your family and all that? Obviously, your sister's nearby, but you're still waking up every morning and there's nobody close to you that you've got a relationship with. So how do you
when I spoke to you a couple of months ago, I was very much settling and I was maybe a bit unsettled. Now I feel I've adapted very well. My work's great, my social life's good, like everything's really lined up for me, and I knew I needed to give it time to. It's a total new life, like you've just mentioned. I don't know anyone. I didn't know anyone here. You have to build them relationships with friends, with people around you, a new work environment, relationships, finding your way about a new city. Like, I had a lot to deal with, and that I'm still dealing with. But I'd say the main struggles of moving to the other side of the world are the culture shock is the biggest bit for me. And we spoke about it before Scott came on and before we started recording. I live in 5-star accommodation, like swimming pool, gym, has a rooftop cinema and stuff like that. It's amazing. Right next to me, there's slums, there's people that can't afford to eat. A recent example that I gave to someone, the pension here is 20 baht a day, which is 50 pence a day, the pension for people to live. So the poverty here is very hard to see. Right on your doorstep, literally. When I'm in the gym, running the treadmill, I can see it below me. That's probably the hardest bit that I struggled to deal with. And it's not that I've dealt with it now. I'm just a lot more aware of it. At the start, I just felt not a sicky feeling. It was more like I was really uneasy with how the way I was living to how they live. But you just need to get on with it, help people when you can help people, and all these people you see that are homeless, or the majority of them that I see are homeless, they're usually older people that, because the pension's so bad here, if you don't have a family to provide for you, you end up homeless. So I always try and just help people out around me, when you can, when you've got it, share it. So culture shock is number one. Number two is obviously missing your family. I've got such an amazing relationship with, I know we spoke about my dad and stuff like that, but my relationship's as strong as it's ever been with my dad. But my mum and my brother, my sister, obviously been over here. It's great to have her. Just in a 50-minute flight is to Phnom Penh in Cambodia. That's very comforting. But I know that I'm giving people the opportunity to come over here and see such an amazing part of the world because I'm here, and I'm doing what I want to do. I'm living the life that I want to live, whether it be professionally, personally, exploring the world in a good company, a good job. Like, I'm doing all the things that I want to do, so that makes my family, makes my friends proud. It makes them happy that I'm happy. That fulfills me. So missing my family isn't a problem. I'll have a few tears now and then, but overall, I've been absolutely fine, and they're only a phone call away, and in worst case, they're only a flight away. And third, I would say the language barrier. The language barrier is hard sometimes, especially in work. I wouldn't go too far into that. But yeah, it's hard, the language barrier for sure. But yeah, there'll be struggles that I'll have in the future. There'll be struggles anywhere I live. So I've got plans to be here for the foreseeable, a few years, however long it may be. We'll see. But no, I'm loving it. So we'll see what happens.
And whatever struggles that you do have, at least you'll be tanned.
Hey,
Like,
there we go.
that doesn't matter what's going on. You
Scott,
could be having the
you
worst day
don't-
ever, but at least you're bronze.
Scott, you don't even. So I work maybe like 8 till 5 or 6, and it gets dark here at like 6:30. And see, at the weekends, it's been so humid here because it's the end of the rainy season. Like, it's 32 degrees just now. I think it says in the weather app it feels like 42. I was walking, I went to the gym, walked back, went for something to eat and stuff like that. It is so warm that you don't even want to walk in it sometimes. And sometimes I just sit in my apartment, my aircon's on 16 degrees just now, freezing cold. Of course, being sun kissed is decent, but sometimes you just want out the sun. There's a good it's good to have it on your doorstep, but that's
Exactly. Aye.
That's funny. Any more questions from the main man, the main men?
No.
How are both our yous just now? Talked about me.
To be fair, we covered quite a lot in the first episode. You listened to it yet?
Yeah, I listened to it.
Well, you can have that.
Aye.
That's all right then. Any update?
Nah, all good.
Okay.
Obviously, I was working down in Birmingham during the week there. Ended up out in the lash on Thursday night. Woke up with
that's
absolute
something
fear.
Exactly. That's something I'd like to speak about. Lastly, the party scene over in Bangkok and with internationals and expats. There's a huge drinking culture over here. And I'm the same as you, Jordan. I get the fear and my anxiety is the worst when I drink. So I've not been drinking at all, really, because I know how much it affects me. And I see a lot of internationals. There's a huge drinking culture, and I think it is a bit of a problem over here with the amount that people drink because it's so accessible. Like a beer here is like 40 baht, 90 pence or something. So yeah, that's a problem over here. But yeah, everyone gets the fear when they wake up in the morning, wherever you are in the world.
Oh, if there's one thing I could change about like existence, would be not to have the fear after having a good night out. Even though you get nothing's happened, nothing bad's happened, you've had a good night. Honestly, waking up the next day, it's like somebody giving me a gun.
I know, honestly. Nah, drinking's not for me. I don't think I stick to the sparkling water.
Plus, you didn't want to hamper your performance with the lady boys out there, Kane. So
You had to get a dig in there somewhere, didn't you? Can I tell everyone it's not like that here? There's a very small minority.
You need to learn that the hard way, though. It's a numbers game.
We'll leave it there, Scott. We'll leave it there. That's funny.
Now, the last thing for me is just like kind of like a little closing tradition we kind of have when we have a guest on, is pretty much if you could give one bit of advice to anybody who is struggling out there, what would it be?
I know I've heard people's answers in the past and they're always very good. To be honest with you, before this podcast, I did not think about this at all. Like when you asked me to do it, and of course I wanted to do it, this was literally like just a conversation to me. I've not thought about it, any of the things I've spoke about. I've not thought or spoke about anyone about with before this. It all just came out, and that's what the good thing is about this. It's just a conversation between three boys that it's open, it's honest. There's nothing that I want to cover up about myself. I'd probably say if I could give one bit of advice to anyone, and I would say seek discomfort. And there's a YouTube channel that I watch and it's called Yes Theory, and they're all about seeking discomfort and getting yourself in uncomfortable situations, and take that for what it is. See, if you're in an uncomfortable situation, you're always learning, you're always challenging yourself. Although me coming to Thailand, do you think that was comfortable for me? I really had to put myself out of my comfort zone and say, no, I'm doing this. I know I'll miss my family. I know I'll miss this. But I don't think you're thriving if you're not putting yourself out your comfort zone. Being in a state of comfortability, especially at a young age, I don't think it's good for anyone, to be honest. So that's a bit of a different advice for me.
It's funny you say that, because like I like pushing myself out my comfort zone, but I could honestly say I've never been more comfortable than now. It puts me on edge a bit, because I know if something was to go tits up, I would probably melt down. So I might try and seek some discomfort. I'll be seeking discomfort today at Bongos Bingo, but
I was about to say it might be the silliest thing. It might be seeking discomfort and me going out my apartment today and just speaking to someone, even if you're feeling a bit anxious that day. Speak to someone, make their day, whether it be going to the gym when you can't be bothered with it, you know you're going to feel better after it. Seeking discomfort, you can take what you want from it. It's a very open-ended quotation. Let's go with that.
just leaving your apartment, that'd be seeking discomfort for me. 42 degrees.
Oh, thankfully, it's what time is it now? It's 5:45 here. We're 6 hours ahead of you. It's going to get dark soon. It's starting to get a bit cooler. There's been flash floods here the last couple of weeks, but thankfully rainy season's coming to an end. But dry season is even worse. It's going to get hotter. It's going to get more humid. So I think I'll be working from home from now on. I'm not going
to. Scott, anything else?
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Lovely to meet you virtually, Scott. Hopefully one day I can meet you face to face.
Aye, let's hope so, mate.
A beer or a sparkling water.
Aye, sparkling water.
Right, good, man.
Right, folks, thanks again. That's us.